Hello! This evening we are going to take a look at the Boeing 747 developed by Asobo for Flight Simulator 2024. So this is the Boeing 747 that's included with the simulator for free. We're going to essentially do a beginner's guide, as I have been doing with other aircraft recently, to getting this aeroplane ready for flight from cold and dark, programming a route into the aeroplane, and then operating the aeroplane throughout the flight and landing it somewhat safely. And we'll try to do things somewhat correctly in terms of procedures. And to do that, I'm going to follow a written operational or functional checklist of my own design. So if you want a copy of it, you can get it off the internet. So I'll put a link in the notes of the video. I will also pin a comment to the video with a link to come and get this. So for the price of about a cup of coffee or a cup of tea from a cafe, you can get this functional checklist or procedure. So if we go and have a look in Google Docs, you can see the original of it. So you can see it has a section on camera controls, which is quite handy. And then it goes into everything you need to do to the aircraft with keyboard keys to get to the different views to help you. Obviously, once you become familiar, you don't have to use them. But it basically covers the basics of, the essential things you need to do in terms of what to press, what to turn, what to change, what to modify as you go around the airplane, getting it ready for flight. So you can see here, there's the procedure for programming the flight into the flight management computer. And it goes on and on and on through all the various different phases of taxi, takeoff, climb, and so on and so forth. So it's got the pertinent information you absolutely need to know, need to do. Okay, so you can get that from Ko-fi.com, and as I said, there'll be a link in the notes of the video and a pinned comment. So, first things first then, we are on the ground at Stansted. We are going to do the same route I've been doing with the other aircraft, so you can compare and contrast the experience of the different aeroplanes on the same route. Okay, so first things first then, we need to go and program that route. So we're going to head off to SimBrief and generate an operational flight plan for the aeroplane, which will tell us our routing information. So we're going to go to a browser, go to simbrief.com. I'm already on the flight planning page in SimBrief, so if you're not sure where that is, if you go to simbrief.com, you come into the front page, go to dispatch and dispatch system, and that will show you your most recent flights you've created. So we're going to create a new flight, and we're back in this page again. So we first start off with the airline code. You can make your own up, it doesn't have to be a real one. So I'm just going to put VFA for Virtual Flight Airline. And the flight number, you can put any number you like in. I'm just going to put 123. So you need the departure airport. So if you know the code for the airport, it's the ICAO code. You can just type it straight in. If you don't know it, you can search by clicking on the magnifying glass, and you can type in where you are leaving from, so Stansted in our case. So I can select Stansted and it populates it with the code. If you do know the code, you can just type it in. So EGPH gives us Edinburgh. And then we need to choose the aircraft type. So if we scroll down, we are in the B747-8. There it is. So if we select it, SimBrief does its thing, works out the routing for that airframe that's most appropriate for it. So it looks at the wind as well and figures out the runway to take off and land on. So once it's got that kind of briefing, we don't have to change anything beyond that. We can go and generate the flight. So it now generates the operational flight plan, which is the raft of paperwork you see the crew taking out to the airplane in a real airport. So if you've ever looked out the departure window and seen them with paperwork spread across the glare shield in the aeroplane, then this is what they're looking at. Or this is a summarized view of it that helps us. If you want to see the original, if you click on View PDF up here, it will pop it open, and there's the printer. You can print this out if you want, but you'll need a lot of paper and a lot of ink because it goes on and on and on. So it's better just to keep the PDF version. So if you've got a tablet to hand or a second screen, this is perfect. Just go and throw on that second screen. Okay, so we're just going to leave the summarized view on. The thing we're really interested in here is the routing information. So I'll just run through this with you to help you understand what you're seeing if you've not seen this before. We are leaving Stansted on runway 22. It's estimating we will cruise at 470 knots ground speed at flight level 360. So a flight level is 100 feet. So 360 of them is 36,000 feet. Okay, so you don't actually need that for the routing. The aeroplane won't ask for it. We are doing the UTAV-1R Standard Instrument Departure, or SID, which is the collection of waypoints to immediately depart from Stansted. That collection of waypoints that may contain altitude and speed constraints takes us to the Utava waypoint. We then do the Q75, or we follow the Q75 airway to the Buzad waypoint. Then we follow the T420 airway to the Trent VOR, then the UN 57 airway to the Pole Hill VOR, and the UN 601 airway to the INPIP waypoint. And then we've got the INP1E Standard Terminal Arrival Route, or STAR, into Edinburgh, where we will be landing on 06. So how do I know that these various things are what I've said they are? If it's five or six characters with letters and numbers, it's a SID or a STAR. If it's 5 characters, alpha characters, it's a waypoint. If it's 1 or 2 letters and numbers, it's an airway. Okay? So the SID, Standard Instrument Departure, again, is a collection of waypoints and constraints. And the STAR, the Standard Terminal Arrival Route, is a collection of waypoints and constraints. You may not have a SID or a STAR. Not all routes have them. Okay, so that's what all of that stuff is in there, and I'll show you how to program that into the aeroplane as we go. So let's go over to the aeroplane. We've generated a flight plan. So we're going to jump inside the aeroplane with backspace, and then we're going to press Shift and C to go and jump back outside, because this is an Asobo aeroplane. So it has some bits and pieces we need to take care of on the ground in 2024. So we need to uncover the engines and uncover the pitot tubes up here. I don't think it's got any covers on static ports anywhere. We'll just have a look under it. We'll climb underneath the aeroplane. I don't think it has got anything else we need to remove. I think it's fairly simple. Okay, so we'll press Shift and C to jump back inside the cockpit again. And now we're going to start to work through that functional procedure that I was talking about that you can get a copy of from the internet. So first things first, we're going to press Shift and 7 to go overhead. We're going to uncage the battery switch, and we're going to turn the battery on. And then we're going to recage the battery switch. We're going to turn the standby power selector to auto. We're going to go and turn on the external power because it is available. So you'll hear some fans come on in the background. Now it has power to the aeroplane. We're going to rotate the APU switch to start, and it will fall back to on its own. So the APU is a small jet engine in the back of the aeroplane. If we look outside, you can see the exhaust port for it on the tail of the aeroplane here. Whoa, it was a huge stutter then from the sim, wasn't it? It's still stuttering. What is going on? I'm just rolling the mouse wheel backwards and forwards to see if it's going to carry on doing that. So that's the APU exhaust. So you'll see hot air start to come out of that as it fires up. So you can obviously hear it spinning up. If we go and look inside the aeroplane, once the APU is up and running, the lights on the APU gen switches say avail, so we can then switch over to using the APU, so we are no longer using external power. We're sat on the APU now. So you will get differences of opinion about whether you sit on external power and turn APU on only just in time to start the engines, but we're going to do it in this order, okay? Okay, so once you've done that, we've got the APU generators on. We're going to go Shift and 8 to go further overhead, and we're going to rotate each of the IRS selectors to nav. So IRS is the inertial reference system. So this is the gyros and sensors that tell the aeroplane not only which way up it is, but which direction it's traveling in or accelerating in. So it uses that as a backup to GPS to give, very accurate information about where the aeroplane is and where it's going. Okay, so then we're going to go and arm the emergency lights. So up above here, we're going to roll the switch down to armed and then cover it. And then Shift and 7 brings us back down a bit. We're going to go and look at the external light section. So down here, we're going to go and turn the nav lights to on. Then we're going to go and look at the window heats, which are just here. And we're going to go and put the window heats on. And we're going to look for the wing anti-ice and turn it to auto. So anti-ice is over here, wing anti-ice. I'm going to switch this to auto. So now we're going to go and program the route. This is the fun bit. Or it is for me anyway. So we're going to skid sideways a little bit and zoom in. So if the screen needs brightening up, you can go and press the plus button, or you should be able to press the plus button a few times. There we go. So we're going to press pause in it, and we're going to key in. We've already got our GPS position, which means the airplane's already aligned. So if you don't, you can look it up. So you can go next page and get your GPS and come back and key it in, or you can select this. You may have a field there if it hasn't populated yet. Okay, which will say set IRS position. We were so slow getting here that it has already gone away. So we can put in our reference airport. So we are at Stansted, which is Echo Golf Sierra Sierra. We can drop that in by pressing the soft key next to the field. And then we can go route. So in line with lots of other aeroplanes with this kind of FMC, the next thing to do is often at the bottom right. So we'll go route. And we'll rekey EGSS is where we're flying from, Stansted, and we're going to EGPH, which is Edinburgh. So we drop that into destination. So you notice those fields had boxes in instead of hyphens. Boxes are mandatory fields, hyphens are optional. So what runway are we taking off from? Let's go and look at our flight plan. We're taking off on runway 22. So we key 22 in into the scratch pad, and then select the field where we want to populate, and it turns it into runway 22. We don't need a flight number, we're going to program it. Okay, so we can go next page. And this is where we can put the routing in. So we want to do this without the SID and the star to begin with. So the first point we're going to put in here is the Utava waypoint, and we'll put it straight in on the right hand side. So airways on the left, waypoints on the right, or intersections. So waypoints between airways, where you go from one airway to another, you typically call an intersection. So we're going to put in Utava at the top right. U-T-A-V-A. And when we do it, it will say direct. So in other words, we haven't given it how to get to Utava yet, so it presumes we're going direct. But then we want to do Q75 to Buzad. So we can type in Q75, put that on the left side, and then Buzad on the right. Then T420 to TNT. So T420 to TNT. Then UN57 to Pole, or Pole Hill. So UN57 to POL. And finally, UN601 to INPIP. UN601 to INPIP. And that's our entire route. So then we can activate that. Now, there's a bug in the aeroplane. Execute should have lit up, so we're going to press it. And that makes it the active route. Yeah, for some reason there's a bug and the execute button doesn't light up. So as long as you know to press activate and then execute, you're good. Okay, so we can go on and do the performance initialization. So we want to put in our cruise altitude. So what does it say on our flight plan? 36,000 feet. Okay, so we can either type in 36,000 or we can type it as a flight level. So if I type in 360, it knows it's a flight level. Okay, cost index. So cost index relates to how aggressively the aeroplane can use its fuel. We've got a cost index of 47, so it's how steeply it can climb, how quickly it can accelerate to cruise speed. So there we go, cost index of 47. Zero fuel weight. If we press the button next to it, it will work it out. So it puts it into the scratch pad, press it again, and it populates. Which also then, because we now know enough, we can figure out the gross weight. So reserves. If we go and look at the PDF, so the first section in the PDF is the planned fuel. We want the final reserve, which is 4 tons basically. So we're going to type 4 in here. Okay. So next thing to do is go to thrust limits at the bottom right of the page. So this is your engine performance selection. So we can leave it as default. The trick you can play here is you can actually derate the engines, so you can climb in a less aggressive manner to save fuel if you really want to. So we're going to say then go to the takeoff parameters. So we are going to set our takeoff to 10 degrees flaps, which is the kind of the normal for a 747. That then calculates the V speeds, so you've got the decision speed, the rotate speed. So if you press the soft key next to each one, they'll get bigger. That's you confirming the numbers. Okay. For the center of gravity, you can press the button next to it and it will calculate it for you, and you drop it in, and that tells you your trim level. And you will notice in this aeroplane that there is no trim wheel like a 737. It's done for you. Okay. So let's see if we can get back down here to look at the unit again. There we go. So we've done the flaps, we've done the center of gravity, we've done the V-speed, so we can go back to the front page of performance initialization. So the only thing we haven't done here now is the departure and the arrival. So if we go and look on the legs page, it thinks we're going straight to Utava at the moment. Oh, we have to execute those changes, by the way. So notice it wasn't lit up and it said mod at the top. If it ever says that, just press execute. It should be lit up and it's not. It's a bug. So we want to do the departure. So go to departure. And it's saying it already knows we're taking off from runway 22 because we've already told it. But we need to choose which SID we're going to be using. So if we go back over to the SimBrief route, it's the UTAV 1R SID. So it's not in view, so go next page, and there it is. So select it, and then we should be able to execute that. And then go index, then go look at Edinburgh, go to arrival, and how are we arriving into Edinburgh? In P1E, into runway 06. So we'll say ILS for runway 06, please. And the in P1E standard terminal arrival route, or STAR. So ILS for 06 is actually the approach, not just the runway. So it's how we're going to approach the runway is with ILS. Okay, so again, we can execute that change. Notice when we did that, it said cancel at the bottom left until we've said execute. When we said execute, cancel changed to index, which just takes you back to the page where you can choose departure or arrival to program it. So if we go and look in legs again now, you can see lots more information. So if we go and sit up, and you press shift and space to do that, and we go and increase the range on the display a bit, and we're going to change this from map mode on the navigation display to plan mode. So this centers the navigation screen on, we need to move the view here so we can see both screens. So we show the legs page on the flight management computer, and we have the display in plan mode, and we can then do a gross flight plan check. So we can, you'll notice when we're on the legs page, the bottom right soft key says step. So we can press step, and the center marker is moving to correspond with the waypoint that's now in the middle of the navigation display. So we can press step and we can move through our route just to make sure it looks good, you know, makes sense. Okay, so we have a gap, and that corresponds, look, with the discontinuity in the route. So we saw this yesterday. So let's see if we can do the same trick we did yesterday. So if we're going to little nav map and we open that flight plan from SimBrief that we're using and create it in little nav map, and you can see if we go right click on the airport at Edinburgh, show the procedures, put ILS 06 in. So it's not put this yellow line in. So there's the standard terminal arrival route, takes us to Tartan. But then there's the approach, and there's nothing in between Tartan and CI06. So if I just go in here and remove all the measurement lines, there we go. So you can see yesterday we introduced this Libba waypoint just to round the corner off a bit. So let's see if we can do the same in the 747. So following Tartan, there's already a discontinuity. Let's see if we can put Libba in there. Libba. And we drop it in there. So it's done it as a dotted line, and it's moved the discontinuity on. Okay? So on the Boeing FMC, you don't use the clear button to remove discontinuities. You select the waypoint below, and then select the line with the discontinuity, and it will pull everything up. Okay, so then when we execute that, that will become solid. It's showing dotted now, look, so there's no gaps. Execute it, and it goes solid. Okay, so we've essentially got a full flight plan now. In the real world, you wouldn't do this. In the real world, you get to Tartan, and there's a hold. So if you go, I'm not sure if it won't show it on Little Nav Map, it will show it on Navigraph. If we import our flight from SimBrief, this one, and we go and show that standard terminal arrival route chart, there's a hold. So you hang on there, unless you've obviously been given instruction before you get there by air traffic control. And typically, if we were coming in, if we go and show this, ILS 06, and add it to the route. So if we were going to get to here and then come in on runway 06, in most cases, I would imagine, even if you do get put into the hold, you would then be released from the hold to fly a reciprocal and then bring the aeroplane round. So they would give you vectors, give you a direction to fly, to go and get you onto the localizer to join the ILS approach. Anyway, let's not get too wrapped up in what might happen. Let's just deal with what we've got. So we've fudged the flight plan slightly to give ourselves a wider turn-in into the destination. So now we've done that, and we've done our gross flight plan check, so it looks like it makes sense. If we press legs again, it will come right back to the start automatically, and we can rotate the knob back to map. We can get rid of that caution. You should clear caution lights. I keep forgetting to tell people this. You should clear caution lights when they happen, because otherwise you don't know why it has happened. Okay? So when I say clear them, I mean look into what they might be, you know, what the cause of them might be. Obviously, while you're starting the airplane up, there's all sorts of things that are not in place as they should be, so the caution light will typically come on straight away. So you can clear it, and then you will notice that it comes back on for various steps of the startup procedure. So let's go and reduce the range back a little bit on this, just so we get some idea. So we've got it down to, was it a 10-mile range now on the navigation display. If you want to change the brightness of these screens, I think, I can never remember where all the knobs are for this sort of thing. in the 747 it's very different. Oh, here we go, they're over here, look. So we can brighten these screens up a bit. You can do the same on the co-pilot side, so his knobs are over here to do that. See if I can get to them. And the two screens here will be controlled by, let me see, yeah, there we go. Oops, the lower and upper knobs here. Anyway, so where have we got to? We've finished programming the flight management computer. So we're going to go to the mode control panel now. So actually I'm going to look at this from one side because it's easier to see it from the side than from straight on. So this controls the mode that the guidance systems are operating in. So first thing we're going to do, actually, before we look at this, is go and press comma to calibrate the altimeters. So it's a shortcut key to do that. If you want to do it by hand, Barrow is the same place as the 737, it's up here. So you can go and change, you can see that moving around there. So if I press comma again, it will center it back up. So you can change the barometric pressure setting for the altimeter to make it accurate for the local airfield. Okay, so we're going to go and put the flight directors to on. Notice it did both at the same time. Like I said, this airplane is quite simplified. Set the heading as required for departure. So we can go, and we want runway 22, don't we? So 222 degrees. So it's worth pointing out, although we're going to say do heading mode, so if we say select heading, you'll see heading select has come up. So the top of the primary flight display always tells you what mode the guidance systems are operating in. So if we were to turn the autopilot on, it would try to fly towards the selected heading because we pressed the select button. We're going to be using LNAV, lateral navigation, which means the guidance system is going to follow the flight plan. So if I press LNAV, we get both. So until the aeroplane takes off and realizes it's almost on the route and it can capture the route, it will fly the selected heading until it captures it, and then it will switch to LNAV automatically. So we need to get to 36,000 feet, wasn't it? So we'll change the target altitude to 36,000 feet. And we'll press the knob in just to confirm that, and you can see there it's got the target altitude at the top of the altitude ribbon. But to get there, we could use vertical speed mode. So we can go vertical speed, and you'll notice that comes up with VS. And we could say climb out at 2,500 feet a minute. But in the same way as heading mode, we can press VNAV as well. And it will do both. So as long as it realizes it's in the ballpark to go and attain the vertical navigation profile, so if you go and look at the flight plan here, you've got speeds and altitudes on the way out. So we've got above 3,000 feet. Then it's going to hold at 4,000 feet. And then it's going to climb out to cruise. Okay, so you can see that actually we're facing the wrong way to see it on here at the moment. But there is I think it's the data button shows you it on the display. I'll show you it when we're in flight or when we turn around. When we taxi out, I'll show you that. Should we just brighten that up? That's annoying me that that's so dim over there. There we go. So we've got the modes programmed in. So when we take off, all we'll need to do is go and press one of the autopilot buttons up here to engage the autopilot. Okay, and then it will take over. We'll also need to arm the auto throttle when we're on the runway, but we don't need to do that just yet. Okay, so we're going to go over to the ECAS screen. So you can see here there's a stab trim setting. So yeah, remember we said earlier that it's not fully automatic, but we do need to set it. So we're going to use our trim controls. This is on my primary flight controls in my hand. I'm moving the arrow to the middle of the green box. Yeah, which is giving the aircraft the correct amount of trim so it doesn't raise the nose or dive into the floor when it gets to flying speed on the runway. It means the aeroplane will be in equilibrium when it reaches flying speed. Okay, so we are ready to push back. So I'm just going to press Shift and Space to pull us back, and then press Alt and P, and the truck will come out to us. Now this is an Asobo aeroplane. We're not going to get much choice about what direction the tug pushes us in. So it could, or the tractor, it could push us in any direction. So who knows, let's hope for the best. So as soon as the tractor has connected to us, we will take the parking brakes off and let the truck move it. Here we go. So parking brakes off, and it's going the right way. Miraculous. So I'm going to let this happen. You could start the engines at this point. I'm not going to. I'm going to wait, and we'll do things in a methodical manner. I think this is the Innie Builds version of Stansted, by the way, if you're wondering. Okay, so the truck has stopped us there at about a 45-degree turn. That's fine. And it's turned our nose wheel to ready to turn to the left, which is really nice of them. So I put my parking brake back on. Back in the cockpit, we're going to go overhead, and we're going to look at the fuel pumps section, which is here, and we're going to go and turn them all on. Okay, so the one thing I haven't covered actually during this is fuel. So if we go and look in here, the basic Asobo aeroplane doesn't have any clever tricks to set the fuel. You have to go and do it yourself. So we've obviously got 50% fuel at the moment, which will take us halfway around the world in a 747. So we'll get to Edinburgh without even, scratching the fuel capacity. So we can leave that as is. But I guess the important thing is here that we have switched on the pumps for the ones that were lit up. They're the ones that had fuel in them, essentially. And we'll see that on the eCam screen further down in a moment if we've missed any, if we have to turn any more on. Okay, so we've turned on the fuel pumps. Then we can go and put the beacon light to both. Engine bleed. We're going to go and turn on the engine bleed all the way across. So APU was already on. So that was the APU bleed, by the way. So then engine bleed is going to allow the compressed air from the APU to get to the engines, essentially. Then we're going to go and start the engines. So what do? We pull each of these knobs. I'm going to do this from in the pilot seat just to show you this. So we pull engine number. Now, is there a sequence? It's 4, 3, 2, 1. So 4, and then we look down, and you will see the N2 number for engine number 4 is increasing. When it gets to above 20, we can advance the fuel control switch for the engine. So we just wait for that number to get above 20, and then we advance the fuel switch. And we monitor the engine startup. So being a relatively simple aeroplane that doesn't penalise you for doing things wrong, you can start all the engines at the same time as each other. It won't prevent you doing it. In the real world you wouldn't, because it would overstress the systems. So if we go and have a look outside, you can see that we have an engine spinning up. Okay, so next engine number 3. So you pull out the start switch and you will see N2 increasing. And then when it gets to 20, we can advance the fuel control switch for engine number 3. So when you look overhead, as soon as the plunger falls in, it falls in on its own for engine number 3. We'll be able to do the same for engine number 2. You'll notice we haven't done the hydraulics yet. You do that after the engines. So we just wait for that plunger to fall in. There it goes, engine number 2. So waiting for the N2 number. So that's the gas turbine axle speed, basically, N2. And N1 is the turbofan speed. EGT is the exhaust gas temperature. And then you've got obviously the oil pressures and temperatures down here. So it's gone past 20. See, it says auto start. It's all automated. It's very, very straightforward. Just waiting for the plunger. There it goes. Then number 1. Again, waiting for the N2 number to come up. So the axle speed of the gas turbine. Then we obviously the fuel control switch introduces the fuel and ignites it, and then you're off to the races. So just coming up to 20. Advance the fuel control switch, and engine number 1 is coming up. So just wait for that to happen. So after engine start, we're going to go overhead. So we'll just wait for that to fall in. It's difficult to see if these are in or out if you're looking straight on at them. So shift and 7 will see what I mean. We're going to turn the APU selector off. So that's here. And then in the hydraulics section, we're going to turn all of them to auto. Okay, so all of the hydraulic pumps go to auto. Then on the packs section, over here, we're going to turn packs 1, 2 and 3 to on. This is the environmental control system. External lights, taxi lights can go to on. So if we go and press shift and space and look down here, this is easier to see this from here. So taxi light is over there, taxi light goes to on. And we can taxi to the runway, but before we do that, let's go and set the flaps to the correct setting. So we said 10 degrees earlier, didn't we? There's 10 degrees on the flaps, and we can see that happen on the aeroplane. Let me just correct the spoilers. It's being a so-and-so, isn't it? Have they broken the spoiler switch? I believe they have. We'll see what happens when we start taxiing. There might be a bug in this, you know. Cabin temp, TCAS off, fuel override is off. Let's go and have a look. So we need to do TCAS as well. So we can put the TCAS to TA mode. And obviously if we were using ATC, we could put our transponder code in as well. We can put the flight... Oh, we can't actually use the lock switch, that's a shame, isn't it? We'll put the seatbelts to auto. And we're going to taxi out. So we're just going to go and check for messages. So it's saying about the fuel override off. So let's go and turn the rest of these on. Okay, so we've just got a cabin temperature issue now. So shift and 7 to have a look overhead. What have we missed? Temperature flight deck. It's on, oh, it should have been on auto, I guess. Cargo temp, flight deck, passenger temp. Should be okay. And we'll put equipment cooling on norm. And that should make that go away eventually. I've not seen that light up before, to be honest. Okay, so we can taxi. So shift and 8. Take the parking brake off. Ease the throttles forwards. Just going to make sure the throttles are working. Okay, we've got them on reverse. That's interesting. I've got a throttle configuration issue here, but I've just fixed it. It's a bit of a lumbering giant. It doesn't turn easily. So I'm going to scoot ourselves slightly forward as well. I don't like that it sits us so far back away. It sits us very low as well, look. Just looking at our co-pilot over there. It seems the geometry of the cockpit doesn't seem quite right somehow. So we're going runway 22 today, aren't we? So we're going to come out of here and turn right. Obviously for this demonstration where I'm talking about lots and lots of things, I'm not going to overload it and put ATC on. We'll do that another day. And I'm going to do a whole series of videos about radio telephony and the basics to get people up and running with talking to the tower as well, which will help people starting with things like say intentions or beyond ATC, or if they're doing group flights with ATC or VATSIM even. But yeah, that'll be another video for another day doing about talking to air traffic control. So I don't think we need the whole runway for this aeroplane, so we'll take off at the intersection here. So just taxiing out. I've got the traffic in the simulator switched off, so we are in the world on our own. We don't have to worry about other people, which makes things a lot more simple for talking about things without having to... Force of habit though, look, I'm looking around. Absolute force of habit to, you know, to always be looking. So remember how long the 747 is. When we bring the nose round, look at the ground changing underneath us. So we're still off to the left. Slightly misjudged it. Okay, so we're lined up. So I'm going to turn head tracking off to do this. We're going to go and look down here. We're going to put the auto brakes to rejected takeoff. You can see checklist is incomplete over here. So there is a button over here called checklist. So down in here we can actually go and complete the checklist. So go normal, I think it is. Oh, the levers get in the way of the displays, which is half the problem with this thing. I'm not going to concentrate too much on it. I think, can you do it here? Yeah, look, it's moving throttles. The click spots are not great. I'm going to ignore the checklist incomplete warning. Something obviously you could go and have a delve through the book to have a look at that yourself. So we've done the brakes to rejected takeoff. Throttles are ready to go. Rotate at 160 knots approximately. We'll obviously be looking at the rotate speeds. Gear up, taxi lights to off once we're in the air. So yeah, we're looking good. So we'll just sit up slightly then, sit forward slightly, as we said. We'll get rid of that caution light. So it's just warning us that we haven't done the checklist in the aeroplane. So let's push the throttles all the way forwards. So we're watching for the V speeds to come up. They're 140 knots, look.
V1.
And rotate. Gear up. And autopilot can come on. We can arm the auto throttle. And it should take over. VNAV should take over now. So keep an eye on the throttles moving on their own. Yeah, there they go, look. They're all working. It's all good. So now we just have to keep an eye on the flaps to retract them at the appropriate time. So the aircraft's going to come up towards 250 knots. Or 240 knots in this case. So it will be following the legs configuration from the standard instrument departure. So yeah, it's going for 250, look. So I'm retracting the flaps now completely. Should we have a look outside? Whoa. Simulator's not very happy today, is it? So you can tell, look, this is the Asobo built 747. It's not got quite such a smooth way of following the flight plan that some of the other aircraft might have. Okay. So you can see at the moment it's holding station pretty much. So if we go and have a look at Y, so there's our airport, and we're obviously already over here. Now notice it's missed the turn. So again, this is a bug of the aeroplane. It's tried to go for 250 knots immediately, and obviously the turning radius on a 747 means it's going to then come back here and do like an S-bend to try and make it. Because obviously its turn radius is much tighter than the STID allows. You can control that to a certain extent with the bank angle. It's already on its maximum of 25. There's a bank angle controller underneath the altitude controller. So you'll notice the aeroplane is holding at 4,000 feet. That's because of these constraints in the flight plan. Yes, that's part of the standard instrument departure. And obviously it's going to hold 250 knots because we're below 10,000 feet. Commercial traffic is restricted to 250 knots below 10,000. Our transition level today is 6,000 feet. So once we climb up through 6,000 after we pass through Utava, we'll need to change to standard barometric pressure. So this should start flashing. Although saying that, I didn't program in the barometric pressure, did I? Let's see if we can find it. Sorry, the transition altitude, I mean, not barometric pressure. Is it in here? It may not be implemented in this aeroplane. No, it would be in FMC if it was going to be anywhere. Transition altitude, there we go. So, oh, it's gone and So we're going to key in 6,000 and put that in there. So it was in the VNAV button. So what that will cause to happen is the barometric pressure will start flashing as we climb through 6,000 feet. In which case we press the standard button on the baro knob. So let's increase the range now on the navigation display. See, we're climbing, power's coming on. We're on our way up to 36,000 feet now. We've finished the standard instrument departure. Can we... yeah, we can show the range rings if we press TFC, which is the traffic display. So we come through 20, yeah, it's put a box around it, it's not flashing, look. So if we press standard, and that's synchronized. We can also go and change the TCAS over to TARA now. I'm not sure if it's automatic in this aeroplane. In the Airbuses it can do it itself. So coming up towards 10,000 feet, slowly. Well, I say slowly, we're actually climbing really steeply, like 3,000 feet a minute. That's not bad at all. The taxi light, or nose and taxi light, can be turned off already. Did we turn the landing lights on takeoff? We didn't, did we? Okay, those should have been on. So I went off script during takeoff. Obviously, I'll show you what they would have looked like. They're pretty pathetic actually in this version of the airplane. Yeah, that should be lit up really brightly, and it's not. But when you come through 10,000 feet, again, yeah, do as I say, not as I do. The landing lights should have been on. I missed that completely while we were busy talking. This is one of the big struggles I always have when I'm recording videos, is while I'm busy talking I go off script and miss things. If you're just sat quietly doing something yourself, it's a lot easier. Okay, so the aeroplane's basically going to look after itself now, take itself up to cruise altitude and follow the GPS route. So I'm going to pause recording at this point. Let's go and have a little look at it outside. It seems a shame, doesn't it? We've got this amazing simulator and we never even look at it. We're obsessing over the cockpit. It does look incredible, doesn't it? Okay, so we're going to let the aeroplane climb out, and you can see there's our top of climb is being estimated out there. Well, I think we're going to get there a fair bit more quickly than that, but you never know. And if you zoom out further, there's our top of descent. So, whoops, it's being a so-and-so again. So our top of descent's about 160 miles out. So what I'm going to do is pause recording at this point so you don't sit there like a lemon waiting. And I'll start the video again, or start recording again, when we're close to top of descent, okay? So I'll see you soon. Okay, we're back with you. I'm just going to check that the video is actually recording again. Yes, it is. And we are about 30 miles out from top of descent. So you can see this is the navigation display. And we're approaching the waypoints. If we zoom out slightly, we're approaching the waypoints that lead up to our turn in towards Edinburgh. So let's go and have a look at Navigraph just to refresh our memory. So we're coming up here, we're going to go through a number of constraints during the descent. So let's pull up the standard terminal arrival route chart. So at INPIP we need to be at flight level 260, at INREV at flight level 200, so 26,000 feet, 20,000 feet, and then 7,000 feet at Tartan. But more interesting for us, we want to have a look at ILS to see what altitude we need to be when we come out of this turn. So we need to be at 4,000 feet for the point at which we get the glide slope and start descending. Okay? So this is estimating coming in at 4,000 feet, and the reason for this, there are hills, look. That's what the shaded areas are showing us, are highlighting to us. I don't know if we can show terrain on here. Well, should we try it and see what happens? When we start descending, we may get terrain showing up, which should be quite interesting to see because we are going to have hills below us. So we need to tell it then, the aeroplane, when we get a little bit closer to top of descent, we need to give it a target of coming down to 4,000 feet. If we go and look on the legs page, you can see there are the bigger numbers. So if I take us over to the display here, notice the numbers are slightly bigger where there are constraints. And if we come in here, look, because we've pressed data already, it's showing the constraints. Okay, so if we press data again, we can show even more. So that's just showing, okay, then data is showing us the ETA. So let's have a look at the various things we can show. Weather, VOR stations, waypoints, airports, the data obviously. Not sure what POS does, and terrain. Anyway, so we're getting fairly close to top of descent, so I'm going to go and start dialing in 4,000 feet. So notice the aeroplane isn't doing anything yet. So in the 747 you have to press the altitude knob in to command it. So we're going to say go for 4,000 feet then. So it immediately comes off the throttle and then it starts descending. So it's coming off the throttle to prevent itself from accelerating as it descends. And you can see here is the profile for the descent. So similar, remember on the Airbus you get a green dot on the altitude. In the Boeings you get this display that shows up on the corner of the navigation display, which shows you how you're doing. So you're trying to keep the diamond in the middle. If it's below, then you're above the projected line down the descent. If it's above, then you're below the projected descent. Obviously the aeroplane should make it down on its own. If it does start to waver, you can obviously use the spoilers to help yourself out. But we'll see how the aeroplane gets on. One of the things that can throw you in this aeroplane, or this version of this aeroplane, is it tends to draw the radius of turns on the navigation display based on your current speed. Regardless, that will have dropped down to like 230 knots by the time we get there. So don't pay too much attention to radiuses that are way out in front of you. So you're going to have a look outside. It is a beast, isn't it? It's massive. Or it seems massive. So you can see the target airspeed is below our current speed and we're not getting to it easily, so I'm going to start feeding in the spoilers to help ourselves get there. So if we go and look outside, I've extended the spoilers and that's helping us bring the speed down to the target airspeed. So if we reduce the range on this again, so we're looking for flight level 260 in PIP, so we've got another 4,000 feet to drop, but it thinks it's on target to do it. So while we're waiting for the descent, let's go and have a look. So the ILS should be 60 degrees. What was the warning about? Speed. Oh, it's just warning that the speed brake is still out. So we don't actually need it out anymore. I had a quick look while the sim was paused to see if there's anything. I think the checklist incomplete. There's no easy way around it. There doesn't seem to be a way built into the sim in the cockpit to interact with the checklist. I may be wrong. If anybody would like to reach out, I imagine there's going to be a custom key binding to be able to manipulate the checklist. I think it should be using this, and it's not. So we were just saying 108.9 and 60 degrees for the ILS. So let's go and check that. So if we look on the NavRad page on the MCDU, the FMC, we've got 108.9 and 60 degrees are showing up as the ILS, which is great. It's worth pointing out the radios do double duty in the 747, so this has tuned itself in to, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Look, VOR left and right, or the nav radios left and right, are tuned to different frequencies at the moment, but it's now showing ILS. Earlier on in the flight it was not showing that frequency, but when you get obviously within range of descent it switches and shows it. So when we programmed the approach into the if you remember when we chose the route and we were putting the destination data in, we chose ILS for 06, so that is what's programmed the frequency for the radio for us. So let's come back to the legs page. There's also a progress page, shows you ETAs. You can get route data as well, which gives you ETA and the fuel burn down. Okay, so this is descending on plan at the moment, so we'll just let it keep going. We will need to go and check the weather at Edinburgh. So we've got open the airport, go for the weather page. So in the performance data, we've got the approach reference data. Yeah, so we don't have to put destination. Say it's saying drag required. Look, so oops, if we go and look, it's speeding up. It's going far too fast at the moment, so we're going to slow the airplane right down. We're throwing the spoilers out, so it's warning us here saying drag required. So if we clear that message, and the speed's coming off, so we've thrown the spoilers out to help the airplane. So it's trying to get to 250 knots in time to come through 10,000 feet, basically. So it's interesting, isn't it? It was preferring to hold the profile, which it has done, over maintaining a target airspeed, which is a little bit wrong. Most aeroplanes, most of the accurate aeroplanes, target the airspeed over and above descent rate. It may be accurate, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a 747 pilot. So we can press checklist to get rid of that off the screen, even though we've got the warning up there. I think it's a bug in this version of the aeroplane, so... But like I said, I may be wrong about that. So you can see the radiuses have changed, now the speed's down. So I'm going to retract the spoilers slightly and see if we can get this to balance itself out. At doing 250 knots descending through Escdo. So if we go and look on the legs page, so we want 230 knots at Tartan. Shall we have a look outside? It's funny, isn't it? You spend all of your time obsessing over these screens and the controls for the aeroplane and not actually looking out the window at the amazing world that the simulator renders. So we're creeping up, the speed's creeping up again, look. So we're going to throw the spoilers all the way out again and let the aeroplane get back down to 250 knots. But hopefully before we get to 10,000 feet. So at 10,000 feet we'll go and put the landing lights on. So if anybody saw the news from PMDG, they have got the 747 in their scheduled, you know, they're going to be working on a 747 and it will only be available for Flight Sim 2024. It's just warning us that the speed brakes are still out. So we'll also need to know the weather, won't we? So 999 hectopascals. Well, we're in inches, so we need to know 29.5 inches. So Boeings tend to be in inches because they're American aircraft. All of the Airbuses tend to be defaulted into hectopascals or millibars, which is the European system. Coming down towards 10,000 feet. Okay, let's go and get the landing lights on. We didn't put the strobes on either. I missed all of the lights, didn't I, when we were busy talking on the runway? So we've flown the entire flight without the strobes on, which is a big no-no. Not that they may not even be simulated properly on this airplane. Oh, you kind of can see the lights from certain angles. They are there, but in this daylight, it's difficult to spot them. Okay, so our next thing to worry about is at 6,000 feet we switch over from standard back to the local barometric pressure. So we're wanting to tune the altimeter to be accurate to ground level at Edinburgh. So 29.50 inches will do that for us. So aeroplane is turning. Ground's getting closer again. Not that we can see it. How are we doing on speed? Can we come off the spoilers? Not easily. So we've targeted 4,000 feet, so that's at the top of the altitude ribbon. Again, it's cautioning because we've got the speed brakes extended still. And we've got an icing warning as well. So let's go and look overhead, and I can't remember how to do this. That's the wipers. Isn't that interesting how they're synchronized? Where are the icing? So there's the pumps. There's the... Here we go. Engine. So it's on. Okay, we've put them on auto. That should work. That's the engine anti-ice. Do we not get wing anti-ice as well? That was on auto already, wasn't it? Yeah. Why is it not descending any further? Maybe because it doesn't need to yet. Okay, yeah, it's going to start descending again now. Let's just double check that again, 2950. So I'm going to do it a little bit early, it won't hurt it. So we switch back to the local barometric pressure. So obviously it's low pressure, it's cold, which is why we're getting the icing. So, which has changed the altitude quite a lot, look. So we are now below the profile, according to this. And this is why we're getting the icing warnings, is this horrible ice. So let's get rid of the spoilers a little bit if we can. Just about see the ground beneath the aeroplane in the mist. So if we go and have a look, we can put the flaps down to 1 at 285 knots. So we can already go for flaps 1. So let's go and do it. Let's start extending the flaps, which will help the aeroplane descend. And we can go to the next stage of flaps. So the flaps are currently extending to flaps 10. We'll leave them at 10 for manoeuvring, and then we'll extend them further once we turn the corner. So it's pulling it down to 180 degrees, look, to make the turn at Libba. Let's pull the range down on the display. So the terrain, I don't think is going to show anything. We'll try it, see what happens. You never know. Nice weather, hey. So we're turning in towards the final turn. You can see there's the localizer is now showing up, and the glide slope. So once we make the final turn, we'll go for full flaps and get the gear down. We can go for 30-degree flaps, which is full flaps at 180 knots. So we could do it now, but I don't want to be manoeuvring with full flaps. So we're at flaps 10 at the moment. Let's go one more. We're going to have a look outside. You can see the flaps are extending and dipping. Look at the leading edge extensions. They're awesome, aren't they? Okay, so we're coming around towards approach. You can see the glide slopes getting closer. Here comes the center line of the runway. So we're going to switch on approach mode, and that has automatically turned on all the autopilots. So we've got VNAV path, localizer, speed mode, it's all engaged. Glide slope is lit up, so we've also got glide slope, and gear can come down. Let's go full flaps now.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
It's warning me about landing gear because I went full flaps and the gear wasn't fully down yet. So it's obviously a bit windy, although it's not too bad. It's just blustery. Look, the wind's moving around. So it's chasing now the glide slope, and it's descending on the glide slope, which is good. So we've got gear down, full flaps. We want the taxi light. Oh, the nose lights. Where's the switch for it? That one. I thought that was going to do there. Interesting. Let's go across there and have a look at these. Taxi is on. Strobes are on. Landing lights are on. I wonder what the storm light is. So, it's a good job we've got ILS, isn't it? Obviously we could follow this. We don't have to see the runway at all. We can just follow the diamonds. So at 3,000 feet, should we do that? I'm going to set ourselves up. And we're going to put this on approach mode now. And let's go and turn off. How do we turn the autopilot off? Well, we have to disengage it here, don't we? There we go. So give the plane a wiggle. This is me. So we'll just follow it down. Oh, the terrain is working, look. It's showing the hills alongside us. So auto throttle is still on, so it's chasing 150 knots. Let's pull it back to 140. We're off to the left. The wind is kicking us around a little bit. And we're low. Oh, maybe that speed difference really did make a difference. Let's take it back up to 150 then if it doesn't like it. Or we could turn off the auto throttle, I guess. So I've got the throttlers as well. I'd rather be slightly high than slightly low. So we've gone off to the right now. Let's go and sort this out. Okay, so we're coming back onto the centre line. We're a little bit high, but that's fine. That's funny, this aeroplane gains an awful lot of lift all of a sudden at about 150 knots. A little bit low coming in, but the flight model kind of gave itself away there on landing. It's not all it should be. So let's go for reversers. Everything hanging out. I don't think the reversers are actually... Oh, they are working on the outboard engines only though, by the look of it. That was fun. So we came in a bit low. As I said, on approach, the flight model kind of gave itself away. If you got anywhere below 150 knots, we kind of lost all elevator control. And then if we went much above 150 knots, then suddenly we gained bucket loads of lift. So while we're taxiing in, we can go and turn off the landing lights, leave the nose light on. Strobes can come off though. I can't remember where they are now. Down the other end. I'll get there eventually. Strobe off. Head tracking is so useful for taxiing. But it's interesting, isn't it? The INI builds planes tend to be a lot better flight models than the Asobo planes. I think it's fair to say. So can we find a parking spot? I'm guessing we won't. The Sim's notorious for doing this. You go somewhere and you can't find any parking spots anywhere. It's quite amusing. And I'm not sure that Edinburgh's really cut out for accepting a 747 somehow. Now there is a gap over here, but I bet an aeroplane morphs into it at the same time we get there. Or it's supposed to be this little, what is it, a Cessna 208 or something? We're about to ruin his day. Parking brake on. So if we look overhead, I'll turn head tracking off to do this. Shift and 7. We don't have external power available here. We may be able to conjure it if we go to the Talk to Edinburgh ground and go to ground services. No, it's not going to do it, look. Ground services, no. We're out of luck. Out of luck, I'm afraid. So there's no easy way of getting the ground power available to us. So we would have to go back to APU to do things the normal way. We would have, if we'd have known that, we would have done it during the taxi to save some time. So we'll wait for the APU to come back up. Then we can switch power generation back over to the APU. So bus transfer is done by the pilots going this way around. So we just wait for the APU gen lights to come on, then we'll switch over to them and then we can shut the engines down without causing mayhem around the aeroplane. So we can turn the hydraulics off though. And we can turn the packs off now. Just waiting for the APU to come up. Here it is. APU is available. So then, having done that, we can come back down into the cockpit and we can switch the engines off. So you can see the power coming down, and obviously bus transfer has already been done, so we're relying on the APU now to power the aircraft. So back overhead, we can go and turn, now the engines aren't running, we can turn all the fuel pumps off. And we can turn the bleed air off from the engines, because that works both ways. That's essentially the same as the engines being used to pressurize the cabin. So APU can now come off. Actually, let's go and do the IRS first. APU off. Standby power off. Battery off, and we're cold and dark. So hopefully you enjoyed that. That was a look at the out-of-the-box 747 that you get for free with Flight Simulator 2024. As you can see, it's not the most accurately simulated aeroplane in the world. There are various bits and pieces that are a little bit broken in it. Hopefully they'll get fixed soon, or hopefully the likes of Horizon might come along if they have the time to do it, and will come and update the simulator as they did with 2020. So the Horizon 747 in 2020 was very, very good. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that. So just before I do go, just to reiterate, I followed this procedure to get the airplane up and running, which, as I showed you, goes through in extreme detail everything you need to press that's an essential, essentially. So we used the Simbrief flight plan, but we didn't have any way of getting it into the airplane, so we programmed the airplane by hand using the route information. So hopefully this has been instructive if you've never done this before with the 747 in the sim. It is flyable. As you saw, approach was a bit dicey, but I guess if you let the sim land itself, you'll probably be, a bit of a happier journey. I always try and land myself if I can, or unless there's some reason I can't, for like zero visibility maybe, although then I probably still would have a go. I don't like letting the sim land things. I like to keep my skills going, so I practice as much as possible. Although saying that, I change airplanes every day, so I never get used to one. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you enjoyed that. See you again soon.